Hello, everyone, and welcome to a special Seasons Greetings Power Talk. My name is Dr. Shawania Marshall, and on behalf of Unapologetically Empowered and Purpose, on tonight, I am super excited to collaborate with four amazing, phenomenal women who are here to help close out 2025 with purpose. I believe in my heart and in my spirit that this is going to be a wonderful and a phenomenal power talk. So I'm truly excited for those who are tuning in and to those who will tune in later. So before we begin, I would love for each one of my amazing guests to introduce themselves. Ladies, if you would just share your name and your profession, and feel free to give a shout out to your DNI organization if you would like to. And we'll start with Dr. Flowers, and we'll just go around.
Yes, good evening, everyone. And thank you, Dr. Shawana, for having me on this platform tonight. I really appreciate it. And so, just a little bit about myself. Of course, I'm retired military, served 20 years in the Army. And now I am a college professor, and I have been in this field for almost 15 years now. And so I am also a proud member of Zeta Phi Beta Sorority Incorporated. And so thank you again for having me.
Thank you for being here. All right. So, Dr. Thelus, if you would go next.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you, Dr. Marshall, for having me as well. My name is Dr. Cleopatre Thelus, and I am an associate professor of psychology. I have been teaching college for about 8.5 years now. Is one of my favorite things to do. Outside of that, I also co-facilitate a wellness retreat that happens every quarter. And so what was birthed out of that is my budding business called Remède Royale, which is focused on helping people to become the best versions of themselves and whole. And so I'm glad to be here, and I'm excited to have this conversation tonight.
All right. Thank you. All right. Lisa.
Good evening. Good evening, everyone. I'm Melissa Ford. I am a licensed professional counselor. I am licensed in the states of Alabama and Georgia. I recently, it's been about 3 years. I opened my own private practice here in Dothan, Alabama, and it's called Resilience Counseling and Resources. And I'm a proud member of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated.
Thank you. All right. And Erika.
Yes, good evening, everyone. Thank you so much, Dr. Marshall, for having us all. It's truly an honor to be here. My name is Erika Lizardo. I am a licensed clinical social worker here in the state of Georgia, and I have my own private practice called Full Circle Healing, and I'm all towards healing families, couples, and ending generational trauma. I do also work full-time, and I do my private practice on the side. And I am also a proud member of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. So that's a little bit of me.
Thank you all. Oh my goodness. I am super excited about tonight. When I reached out to all of these amazing women, everyone, I just have to share, they literally said yes. And I knew when God placed them in my mind and my spirit, I knew that I needed to act upon it. So I just want to say, ladies, thank you again for joining. And so I wanted you all to hear from them. So before we go into our power talk, I just wanted to share just a little bit about their educational background, because then that will shed some light into why I selected them and why I truly believe that for this power talk, empowering through purpose, as we talk about mental health, physical health, and just encouragement, empowerment, why I believe they're going to be a great resource and just a great source of encouragement for all of us. So I'll start with Dr. Flowers. As she's already shared, she has served her country through the Army. She is a retired, she is a veteran of the U.S. Army. And so one thing that I wanted to share, that she has an undergraduate degree in psychology and a minor in sociology. She also has a master's in education, adult education, and a doctor in psychology. And she released her first journal book in July of 2018, and she's currently working on a new book. So whoop, whoop. All right, I love it. And she continues to focus on psychological struggles of trauma and healing using biblical principles. So, welcome again, Dr. Flowers. And
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that.
you're welcome. Now, I just want to share a little bit about Dr. Thelus. One thing that really stood out that we have in common through her past research, she researches social issues with an intersectionality, race, and gender focus, which that was the focus of my dissertation. I also wanted to share that she serves as a faculty advisor for the Student and Government Association. She's a faculty co-advisor for Psi Beta, which is at the National Community College Honor Society chapter on her campus. If you've already shared, she is a founder of her organization, Ring Royale, which is a movement that focuses on healing and wholeness in the Black community. And so she also has a heart for service and building community relationships. So welcome again, Dr. Thelus. And so now I will share about Erika, just some things that she hasn't shared. She is a trusted mentor in the Gwinnett County Public Schools, which I am a proud employee of. So shout out there. She is a community advocate, a passionate facilitator of workshops that empower women, parents, and underserved communities. And which she's already shared, she is a licensed clinical social worker and a senior social worker with the Department of Veteran Affairs. So welcome, Erika. And last but not least, Melissa Daniel, my fellow Troy graduate. So glad to have you here. As she shared, she is the owner and operator of Resilience Counseling and Resources. She currently services 2 states, Alabama and Georgia. She has over 10 years of experience working in mental health, substance abuse, and behavioral counseling. And I definitely wanted to share that through her experience, she did share that her counseling style is eclectic. She believes that she does not believe in the one size fits all treatment. So that is so important. She received her bachelor's of science in human services and master's of science in counseling psychology from Troy University. So without further ado, ladies, it is time to get down to business. So what we'll do, we'll start off with our first question. And so the first question, Dr. Flowers, what I would like to ask is for our power talk, and I want all of you to really think about this as you share your responses to everyone. Think about empowering through purpose. So as you think about your life and your career, how important to you is empowering through purpose as you think about your life and career?
You know, that question is so packed with so much, and I think that each of us can answer that in so many different perspectives. I think for me, just to give you all a little background, because I think you need to know kind of a bit of the story in order to move forward. But I grew up very poor. We grew, we didn't have a lot. And so as I looked at that and what I wanted to do with my life, I think that was the tailwind that pushed me forward to success. So that's how I ended up in the military, and it was a way for me to get my education. And so now that I've served the military and I'm done with that, I feel now that I have achieved some things, it is now my purpose to be able to empower others. For me, that empowerment is through teaching. I am a psychology professor, just as Dr. Cleo, and so I'm able to empower others through teaching, but also to community. I'm a community advocate within my community. I believe that we all have a mandate to serve others and to help others to pursue their purposes and to push them to get there. And so for me, my purpose in this leg of the journey is holistic. It is not just one-sided. It is spiritually. I'm a minister. I do a lot of community outreach. So spiritually, naturally, psychologically. And then, I think that, sometimes we may, mentor one area of a person, but it has to be a holistic approach. And so for me, my purpose is to help others to reach their destiny in this leg of the journey. And so I think that it's multifaceted. And so my purpose, coming from being poor to now having some things, it's my purpose to be able to give back. And I think that's what God would want me to do in this season.
I love it. I love it.
That's awesome. I guess I'll jump right in. So I feel like I've always been really passionate about seeing people just grow and heal. And so I've wanted to find ways to do that. And so one of the ways that I do that is through the classroom. It always brings me so much joy to see how at the beginning of the semester, a student might start off a little bit shy, still kind of trying to understand how to present themselves as someone who's a scholar. And then by the end, they're confident, they're speaking more. And I always make sure that my students encourage each other. So anytime that someone is kind of putting themselves out there and speaking, I would say publicly, always have them clap for each other. And then after a while, they'll end up doing that without me having to tell them. But I see that they just become more of who they are created to be through how I try to run my classroom. So that's one way that I do that. And then at the same time, it's fun for me because I get to talk about psychology, which is something that I'm passionate about. The other thing that I do outside of the classroom are wellness retreats that happen every quarter through Alafia Wellness. And these retreats are kind of like multiple day intensives where we work with a group of people around healing. And so it's rooted in Christian principles. We're praying for each other. I'm helping them to journal, which is something that I'm passionate about, kind of processing in that way and facilitating those sessions. We incorporate physical health as well. And so in doing those retreats, I've learned that I really have a gift and a passion for just holding space for people and allowing them to be seen and helping to facilitate how they reach their healing and becoming whole in that way as well. And so those are two ways that I would say that I operate in my purpose.
Thank you. Thank you.
That's beautiful. And I'll go ahead and jump in. I think I can relate so much to what both of you have said when it comes to your purpose. And exactly the same for me. I've always known that I just have a heart of community and giving back and really making an impact in people's lives. One thing that has always stuck with me is people rarely forget what you say to them, but they always remember how you make them feel. And that is my purpose. I never want to leave anyone feeling worse than after when I came in their lives. And I want to empower them to make a difference in their lives and those around them. That kind of give back mentality, but start with yourself, empower yourself, heal yourself. And I do that through community advocacy and my practice. And just really being a source of strength and spaces like this, right? Creating spaces to have these tough conversations are really needed. A lot of the things that we think separates us, we have a lot in common. I will remember like when I was in grad school, my focus was children and families. And then I quickly realized, man, this work can be a little heavy. I'm going to mental health. But my purpose has always been children and families. And when I started my practice and when I started my getting back into really the root, what caused me to be in this field, I recognized that sometimes trauma is generational. You don't know what you don't know. And sometimes just having the space and empowering people to speak up and focus with moving with intentionality, really helps in those behaviors and traumas and things of that nature. So I love working with families. I love working with couples. I love working with individuals and really just helping them understand how to break these traumas. Because one thing is a lot of people have traumatic childhood experiences and it's just not talked about enough. And I'm always trying to empower individuals like you're not responsible for the trauma caused to you, but you are responsible for your healing, and that's okay. we all have life. We all have experiences. We all have a purpose. And together, you can't heal in silos. So let's work together to break down these barriers and help you live in your purpose. So, yeah.
Thank you. All right, Lisa.
I guess empowering others for me started early in childhood, just watching and my mom and my aunts support each other unconditionally. Like even if I'm like, why are we going to my aunt's house? Aren't y'all into it? She's like, no, we're gonna go over there anyway. Just showing up, even when it's tough, just showing up and being there, providing whatever was needed in the community, whether it's material things, whether it was prayer, whether it was just encouragement. That was instilled in me at a young age. And I think the other panelists will agree. When you are in this profession, whether it's social work, whether it's counseling, whether it's, anything dealing with people and customer service and all the things, you either grew up around it, you went through it, or something kind of drew you to this career. It wasn't something that when you little, you say, oh, I want to be a social worker. Oh, no. I started out in Troy as a nurse, and that was my goal. But I later changed it through life experiences, stuff changed, my goal. And I think because of those life experiences, because of just my history and things that I've been taught along the way, it just kind of helps implement, and it made me the person I am today to want to help others to look past the surface, peel the onion layers back and see what's really going on. I've always been that person for others to come to and talk and try to make things right and all the things. So I think it just kind of naturally came to me that I would end up in this profession, but I definitely feel like it is my purpose and I enjoy doing what I do.
Thank you. You all said some things that really stood out. First of all, I truly believe that knowing your purpose is so important. And I talk about that a lot. And so just for everyone out there, even if you feel like you don't truly know, there has to come a moment where you take the time to carve out, to spend time with yourself, really just seeing where your strengths are. Where do you feel the most happiest? What makes you feel like I'm really making a difference? Because knowing your purpose is what's going to drive you moving forward in the right direction. But I love how you all talked about being intentional. We have to. Like every day that we live our life, nothing is promised. So we have to be intentional about our decisions, our actions, our choices, and then showing up, and I think about just life itself. I love the fact that that's how I was raised too, like being supportive, showing up for people. So I think that's very important, very powerful. But I also had to learn to know when it's okay it's okay to not necessarily always show up, especially if it may put you in a place where it's draining you consistently. And one thing too that I've learned in life, when I show up for people, you want that same in return. And I don't always do it to get it in return, but then that's when you learn too throughout life, where you may have to take a moment and say, okay, am I overexerting myself? Am I doing too much? Do I need to possibly take a step back? Because sometimes, and just speaking for myself, I've realized where I've showed up and showed up and showed up. And then there were times where things happened and people didn't show up for me. So, but I love those things that you all talked about, being intentional, just showing up and also just knowing your purpose. All right. So the next question, I'm going to start with Cleo. So we're going to dive into looking at understanding the impact of mental and physical health. And so for this question, I really want to break down the mental aspect, the positive aspect of this. So when we think about mental health, why is it so important to have a positive mindset every day? And how could it be even harder, especially as we embark on this holiday season?
Thank you for the question. So as a social psychologist, I always like to think about how the environment impacts our behavior and our behavior impacts our environment. And so if our behavior is influenced by the way that we view the world, then if we keep a positive mindset, it's going to show up in how we do our day. It's going to show up in what we choose to eat. It's going to show up in whether or not we actually choose to exercise or do whatever activities are healthy for our emotional and physical health. And so having a positive mindset helps to frame how you experience your day. It helps to frame how you interact with people and how you interact with yourself. I think that sometimes we forget that one of the most important relationships that we will ever have is the relationship that we have with ourselves. And so when we are maintaining positivity and gratitude and allowing ourselves to see the world in that way and see our day in that way, then it will help us to also have a more positive mood. It'll help us to appreciate things more. Writing a gratitude list in the morning is helpful, and that'll elevate your mood. And so if we feel better, we'll do better for ourselves and during our day. And so I think it's highly, highly important to make sure that whenever we're noticing that our mindset is shifting toward negativity, that we kind of bring it back, because it's going to impact everything else.
Thank you.
I can jump in here. And I think because my emphasis is positive psychology. That's my focus. And I would rather see the cup half full than half empty. I think that so many people can see the issues around them, but they never see what good. And so it is so important that we start our day with a positive attitude. So one of the things at 3 a.m. this morning, I woke right up, and one of the scriptures that fell in my spirit was 1 Thessalonians 5. And I want to read this. It says, it's 5 and it's 17 and 18. Pray without ceasing. In everything give thanks, for this is the will of God in Christ Jesus concerning you. And so as I began to meditate on this scripture this morning, give thanks in all things. That means that everything ain't gonna always be peaches and cream, but can I give thanks even in that? And so that has been one of the scriptures that has taken me a very long way. And just to share a little bit about this, some years ago, my late husband was murdered. And I remember that was the one thing that God told me, that, can you bless me at all times? This is one of the all times. I mean, it looks really bad what you're going through, and it is bad, but can you bless me anyway? And so keeping that positive mindset helped me not only to navigate myself into, have a healthy journey in recovery and grief, but also my children. And then those family members that are around me. So it doesn't change the situation. I still had to go through the funeral. I still had to go through the trials and all those different things. But my mindset and my outlook was different because of the positive mindset. And so I think how we view situations can really, when we have that positive mindset, can really change how we see things. And so it is so important to that gratitude journal. Get up in the morning in gratitude and tell God thank you.
Amen.
And so I think that's very important.
Powerful. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you for sharing that. I second everything that you both have mentioned and sentiment. And it's so important. I always tell my clients and my families the power of perspective, right? It really takes you a long way. When you have a healthy perspective, it really helps your thinking. But then it also just kind of help people understand knowing what you do and you do not have control over. I think that really can help some people when they feel that they don't have control, and to focus on what you do have control over. And that is gratitude. You have control over your mindset when things may not look like it, right? When things are tough and so much is out of your control, well, let's focus on what's on your control. The power perspective is really, really powerful in reshaping and reframing. So that's all I wanted to add.
And yeah, just to piggyback on what everyone else said, it's a saying that they say, every day may not be good, but there is good in every day. So you take that and you are intentional about looking for the good, looking for the positive. Even in the midst of negativity, you can usually find something that is positive. Even if it's one small thing, hold on to that, and that will give you hope. Just a little bit like I'm just going to speak on the holiday season and why it is harder this time of the year. And to piggyback off of Erika, our brain releases serotonin, or the feel good hormone, whenever we have thoughts of gratitude, whenever we have positive thoughts. So the more we have those thoughts, then the more serotonin is going to go into our brain and the better we're going to feel. During this part of the year, our days are shorter. We have no control over that. The weather with a lot of rain, we have no control over that. Grief hits harder during the holidays, and all of these things. Some people have seasonal affective disorder where every year, like clockwork, during this time of the year, they're going to get depressed. So one thing I stress to my clients is, okay, it's fall. Let's get it. What we doing? What's the plan? You know what helps, and you also know what doesn't help. And even if like, okay, that didn't work, that didn't work, so don't keep doing it. It's kind of simple when you look at it like that. But in reality, it is hard to keep a positive mindset. But instead of asking why me, ask why not me, and pull on to your faith and hold on to your higher power, and just keep going in the positive direction of that.
I love it. I love it. That's definitely something that every day I wake up, because I like all of you said, we have control over how we in our minds want to think. And so for me, it's whether it's reading a Bible scripture, whether it's reading a positive words of inspiration, like I have to, that's like a non-negotiable, because I do believe and a lot that how you start your day will determine or dictate how your day will go. And I remember when I first started teaching, I would always like, okay, I got to listen to some gospel music. I got to read the scripture. I got to listen to something positive, because, when you're dealing with people, whether on the job and just as an educator, like I just believe that you have to go into anything with a positive mindset. And so thank you all for sharing that. I totally believe that is so important, because it determines how your day will go. All right. And so we're going to go into the next question. I did want to talk about the physical part, because a lot of times I see, and I don't think sometimes people realize when we neglect our physical, how that can impact our mental. So Erica, I want to come to you on this question. When people neglect their physical health, their physical well-being, how could that potentially impact their mental?
Yes, absolutely. Just like you said, I think it's really hard to correlate the two, because a lot of times people feel that one doesn't affect the other, and they really, really do. Our physical health really helps with everything when it comes to your mental health. It puts you in the right mind frame. It gives you discipline. It gives you structure. It gives you better health outcomes overall. So when I challenge my clients and my families to do something as simple as walking, right? They always report, man, that 30-minute walk really helped me. I was really able to have a clearer mind. I was able to think. It really is helping me to relax. And I think it's really important to really highlight that, right? You can't have one without the other. I always tell people to really focus on the physical health as well. And it doesn't have to be really strict goals. It can be something really smart and attainable and simple, such as walking, right? Such as doing something while you're watching TV, or just something very intentional. It could be yoga, just really putting in the effort, the same effort to your physical health. So it really does impact your mental health. Absolutely.
So true.
Yeah, Erica, I'm so glad that you talked about, at least just walking. Being in the military, you sustain a lot of injuries. And one of the things early on when I first retired, you don't realize you have all these, injuries because you're young, you're going, you're doing all these things. And once I retired, things wasn't working as well. And so, of course, then there came some weight gain because I wasn't running. I wasn't as active as I was, because now I got knee injuries, back injuries that I'm dealing with, which affected my mental health because now, I'm not as fit as I used to be. And so one of the things that I had to learn is I had to be able to do what I can with the body that I have now. And so I think that that's, it was really hard for me to correlate the two at first because I'm like, hey, I just served 20 years and I've been running and doing all this stuff for 20 years and I've been physically fit all these years and I don't understand why I'm gaining all this weight and this is not working and this. And so now I began to not see myself, which now is affecting my mental health. And so, and I'm just one of many soldiers who deal with that, after retirement or after serving. And what I found out, you do what you can. So there was a point where I had to do chair exercises. And guess what? The weight went. You have to learn how to do what you can with the limits of what your body will allow. And so, and that comes with also too healthy eating because that's a physical part of the body. You cannot, yes, I used to could eat a hamburger and guess what? I might could eat two, but I'm burning 3,000 calories a day with rucking and doing all those things. Well, guess what? I can't have two hamburgers now. And no, I cannot have the bread. I might can have the burger, and the lettuce and the tomato. But we have to learn how to alter our lifestyles to fit the journey that we're at now. And that, of course, affected my mental health in a positive way once I learned that, yes, there are things that I can do within the limits of what my body can tolerate now, along with healthy eating. And that is a process. Give yourself grace, but you got to start somewhere.
I love it. Definitely give yourself grace. That was hard for me. I did want to interject just for a split second. I literally have always battled with my weight. And it wasn't until I want to say when I graduated college and first started teaching, I was like, okay. So I used to be really, really skinny in high school, graduated, went to college, whatever the freshman weight was, I gained it. So when I graduated, and I think it was probably in my late 20s, 30s, I really, really got to the point where it was I was at my biggest. I'll never forget. It was around the Christmas holidays, and I'll never forget. Got on the scale, bought a pair of pants, and I was like, And that's when I really got serious about my health, working out, being more conscious about what I was eating. Because even with sharing what you were saying, like I'm not one of those individuals where I can just eat and think I'm gonna be okay. Like I will gain weight. And so I just learned my body too, and I got excited about it too. And I've actually, thank you, God, I've been able to maintain for the last few years, but it took a lot of hard work, but it was doing what I needed to do because it was impacting me mentally. And I'm like, this is not okay. And I just really got serious about it. And then it made me feel even more like happier, about myself because even though I love myself, I just didn't like truly how I was looking and allowed myself to get. But that's a mental thing. I had control over my decision and what I was going to do to change it. So both of you are so right. So definitely feel free, Cleo, Lisa, chime in. What are your thoughts?
I wanted to add real quick, as you all were speaking on this, and I agree with all of you, is that being able to take care of yourself physically and finding ways to do that in a way that fits for you is also self-love. It's like one of the only things you could really give yourself that no one else can is working your body out, making sure you put good things in your body, you're drinking your water. And so again, however that needs to look for you, that's important. And when Erika mentioned going on a walk, it made me think about how just going outside in nature is one of the ways that you can help to take care of your mental health. And so if you need to walk very slowly or you need to sit down in nature, that is going to be helpful for your mental health and also release endorphins. So it's a biological thing that can happen as well, where your mood can be elevated just by engaging in physical activity. And so it's just really important. But those are the little things that I wanted to add to what you all shared.
Yes, and just to just kind of piggyback off of what everyone said, and to look at it in a more logical way. When your body has a deficit in certain vitamins, it looks like symptoms of mental health. So if you have like stress or tension or aching muscles, if you have constant pain, if you have um a lack of like vitamin D or magnesium or things like that, it can look like depression. It can look like fatigue and tired and low energy. All of these things are related, and culturally, we all need more vitamin D than other people. And most of the time, like, and I've told nurses, and this is something that I've learned through experience, just being tired, being easily stressed out, easily irritated. And when I got my labs drawn, my vitamin D was in deficit. And they prescribed a pill that I take like once a week. And when I tell you, after probably about 2 or 3 weeks, I could just tell the difference in my body. So listen to your body. When you go to the doctor, ask them to draw your labs and check your levels, because it could be something, anything, your glucose level, your blood pressure, any of those numbers can be off, and it can be directly related to something going on mentally. So they definitely go hand in hand, but that's what I wanted to add to that.
Thank you. Thank you. And I truly agree with everyone that just said, the mental health aspect is so important, but also is the physical. So thank you all for sharing. All right. So this time I'm going to start with Lisa and rotate around. So Lisa, for this question, and I want everybody to really think about it. Throughout this year, 2025, I don't know about you all, but it has been a year like no other. And so even though through this segment, I titled it like Queen Energy, Empowering Through Purpose, but this segment is truly for anyone, male or female. And so I want to talk about when I think about things that have transpired throughout this year, just personal situations that were unfortunate, circumstances that transpired in my family, things that were unexpected. But even when I think about just what I've seen occur, just even in our world, when I noticed when we had the government shutdown, like people, they were losing their jobs, or things were happening where they weren't getting paid. And then there was the issue with SNAP benefits, SNAP recipients not receiving their money. And the thing that really hit me, I think, was the last thing where it really hit me, where I wanted to just shake this up, is when I saw the suicide of the NFL player with the Dallas Cowboys. And so I was, for me, like I knew that people around me or across the world were going through things, men and women. But then I said, you know what? I really want to create a segment where, even though it's catering to women, there's things that men can take from it too. So Lisa, what I want to do, I want to start off with this question to you. How can we help men understand the importance of seeking mental health and the support that they need? Because sometimes, I just think about just growing up around men, it's the mindset of being strong, and I can't show my emotions if something is wrong. But we see things that continue to happen, not just with women, but with men, that tie into mental health. How can we encourage our men to seek the help that they may need?
Okay. I think as women, a lot of like it across the cultures, I think women are like the rocks of the family, or the pillars of the family. I think most people would agree with that. I think first off, we can start with how we choose to raise our sons, how we say, okay, it's okay to cry, instead of saying stop all that crying, and giving them the space to just express how they feel, going on into, adulthood, being there and being supportive of our brothers, do check-ins, and not just how you doing or how was your day, like be more specific, because it's not easy for men to open up and be vulnerable. So maybe ask specific questions like, hey, you usually go play cards Friday night. You ain't been in a few weeks. What's going on with that? Any changes that you notice in their behavior, like maybe you sleeping a little bit more, you're a little bit more irritable. I think we interpret their anger or their easily frustration. We interpret that as, just being aggressive, but when it comes to men and depression, anger, irritability, all of those are signs of depression. So just like checking in, and a lot of times if we ask those specific questions, if we say, hey, I noticed this, a lot of times they'll be more encouraged to talk about what they're feeling and what's going on. But just being a listening ear, just like us, sometimes we just want to vent. We just want to get it out. We don't want advice. We don't want opinions. We just want to get it out. We have to offer that same thing to the men and just give them a safe place to just say what they need to say.
Thank you. And I just wanted to say, like, just looking at some of the comments from people who have been tuning in, one of the things that stood out is pray for them and listen to their concerns. And I think that's so important. And I did want to acknowledge, thank you all for your amazing and powerful comments. And hello to all of you too. We're so glad that you were able to tune in. And we definitely just hope that, something that we continue to share and that we say can be a source of inspiration. So someone please, anyone else want to jump in behind Lisa and share just what you think we can do to better support our men and encourage them.
Absolutely. I mean, I think you hit it right on the head. I think the number one for me is ensuring that they know they have a safe space. I think what with this new day and age and young men, a lot of times they have the words. Young men may have the words, but may not know what it looks like. So, for example, I was with a group of young men, and I had simply asked the young man, I said, hey, what has been the hardest part of your senior year or the hardest part of high school? And his mom was right there next to me. And he says, yeah, my anxiety just gets the best of me. And he's just said it so naturally because now they have the words, but they don't necessarily have the experience or really understand the depth of it. And the mom just broke down crying. And I said, Mom, it's okay. It's okay. Let him cry, because his face was like, oh my God, what did I just do? Right. Mm-hmm. And I just encouraged him. And I said, thank you for sharing. Thank you for sharing. I'm proud of you for sharing. And it's okay. It's okay to not be okay. So I know you said it casually, but let's talk about it, right? And it doesn't have to be right now. I know this kind of just threw you off guard, and just kind of reassuring the mom, like, it's nothing you didn't do, right? It's having the space in the conversation to where they can be received without judgment. And I think it's also important when it comes to men and for women that are closest to them to not take it personal that you may not be their safe space. Mm-hmm. Encouraging them to seek help outside of their circle. But also, I think it's really, really important that they have other men who are supportive and who are emotionally intelligent to receive the vulnerability that comes attached with men being vulnerable. I think it's really, really hard for men to be vulnerable because they don't know the backlash or how it will be received or if they're going to be judged. So not only the safe space, but them also knowing when to create that and who to create that with is just really important. But just lastly, helping them have the words. So having conversations, just like Lisa said, that's really specific, like I noticed this, or there's been a change here, or let's talk about this, or just having them to explore their feelings. Like, hey, so, when this happens, how would this feel? How would you handle it? Just kind of helping them to be open to expressing and using those language that they may not be able to express or have the opportunity to express.
I love it. I love it. Anyone else?
I'll chime in here, Dr. Shawania. One of the things, being married to another veteran who served 30 years, PTSD is real. But also, too, one of the things that I've learned as a veteran myself, when it comes to men, support them, but also to give them the space to grow. Sometimes, we see things and, well, why is that? Well, you didn't say anything to me. Even though I am a help me, I'm not a man. Mm-hmm. And so, yes, I'm an help me and I can encourage, but also too, I need to be able to allow him that space to be able to seek the help that he needs. And I'm grateful that I have a spouse, that does not mind therapy. But also, too, we have to still look at this stigma surrounding mental health in this country. And especially if you have served, they still think you're crazy. They don't understand that terminology is everything, and they're not crazy. But if you've been exposed to some things, because trauma rewires your brain, we know this, and that when you're exposed to trauma, certain things happen. And so the stigma with mental health, and it hasn't gotten better, yes, but it's still a long way because now we just experienced a setback with this government when it concerns mental health. So yes, I think being supportive, I do think allowing them the space to grow and not to take it personally. I can't remember if Lisa or Erica said that, but yes, don't take it personally if they don't come to you first. Be grateful that they're going to someone to open up and talk.
I totally agree. And you mentioned, go ahead, Cleo.
Oh, I just wanted to add real quickly. I agree with everyone. Something that I wanted to highlight that I feel like came up with everyone's comment is this idea of shifting the norm around sharing, like men sharing and coming out and asking for help when they are feeling like they need extra support around mental health, where you are encouraging and saying thank you for sharing, and then making sure that they're connected to a community of men who make it a norm for themselves to experience and express a full range of emotion and then seek help when they want and need it. And so I kind of heard those things coming up. So I wanted to highlight that because I think it's important, like recreating the norm around men talking about their emotions, seeking mental health, and then also just sharing when it comes to emotional experiences, and then encouraging them by saying thank you, I appreciate it. It's like almost sometimes when people share something that they didn't necessarily feel would be received well. And so Erika, you said like to not judge. Like, I really appreciate you coming by and sharing that with me. Like, I think it's always good to kind of reinforce, like, keep doing this by using language that shows them that you appreciate that they did kind of come and share in the way that they did.
Just growing up, and I'm 47, and I'm probably one of the oldest in the group, but I just think back when I was growing up, we didn't really talk too much about like things that related to mental health. It wasn't really something that was, I think, about really expressing your feelings. And I don't think it was intentional. I just think that was just the way things were. And where I really started to see where it really started to become a part of where society realized how important it was is when COVID hit. And, I hate that it evolved out of COVID, but I'm glad that people realize how important that it is and that it was to really talk about it. And so as we talk about, we're talking about, men, if we can just talk about in this next question, I want you all to share out because we know it's things that men deal with and women. What are some things, and I'll come to you, Sharon, on this one to start off. If you could just share, or anyone, just based upon your background or experience, whoever wants to jump in here. I think it's important. I would really love for, based upon your experience, your education, what are some things that family members or people, should be aware of or look for that might be triggers that would help them as they, move forward in their everyday lives, that would help them understand, like, maybe this is something that I really need to pay attention to, that would help them as we talk about like mental health issues.
Is that respect to men and women or just
This is
anybody?
just anybody in general, like just things that just from your experience, education, what are some things, whether it's in their child, their children, or, just, wife, husband, sister, brother, what might be a trigger, just some things or look for is that, just to let them know, because sometimes things I feel as though because people don't know, it just gets missed. So if anyone would like to share, feel free to share if you would like to.
Yeah. So one of the things that I do know is that looking back, because of some childhood trauma that I experienced with being sexually molested, I realized that there were some things that unknowingly that I passed on to my daughter because I was triggered with certain things, and which caused her to have anxiety. And so, but it took me many years to recognize that the way I responded to certain things was triggers from my childhood. And so now being, more open, because, one of the things that she told me was, she was like, Mom, you never talked about any of that. You never shared any of that. And so now I'm very intentional about talking to my children about different things that I experienced, which is really how the book Purposeful Pathways was birthed out, because I realized that I had really, and I won't say damage. There were, they had their own struggles, but it was because I did not realize, that it was a trigger for me. So certain things of how I responded, if they wanted to go out, or, like I was just really overprotective. I was always thinking something was going to happen. And so where are you at? Why are you supposed to be here at this time? And I would just like blow up. And it was because of what I had experienced in my childhood. And so now that I am aware of those things, I really ask people that I come into the circle, if you've experienced any childhood trauma, you got to deal with that. Deal with that so that you will not, cause your children or those that are around you, to suffer any anxiety or anything like that, because you don't recognize it with yourself. So now that I can recognize my triggers, I know what not to do. And it has really helped, my children to become more evolved, to really deal with their own mental health and be more open to discuss and say, hey, Mom, this is what I'm dealing with, And one of the things I'm really at, hey, you need to get your counselor on the phone. You need to schedule an appointment right now. Mental health in our home is an open topic for discussion. And so I think that this was not the norm. I didn't grow up there. And Shawana, I am older than you. I'm working on 57. But I will tell you, in my era of growing up, that was not a discussion. You didn't talk about if you were feeling some type of way. But I think making mental health, just as if you was to, break your leg or whatever, make it a priority in your homes so that all of us can be whole and healthy people. That's what I would say about that.
I'll chime in really quick. And just to piggyback off of Dr. Flowers, having those open discussions and saying, oh, hey, I experienced this or I experienced that, like, you would be surprised at how many people have went through the same thing you have, or have been around people who have went through the same thing you had. And it makes it more common to talk about than not these days. Some of the warning signs that you could kind of look for are just slight behavioral changes. Are they sleeping all day? Are changes in appetite, weight loss or weight gain, things like that, increased irritability, aggression, all of those things, like different behaviors, different, like we say, different health conditions. If someone is complaining about chronic pain a lot, that could directly affect them mentally, So just kind of look at those things. Pay attention to the things that are not said. People slowly isolating themselves. When they would usually come around, you don't see them anymore. Like Erika said earlier, don't take it personal. Reach out to those people and say, hey, I noticed you haven't been around. Like, what's going on? And just, looking for that why. That was something that I was taught working with people who are dealing with substance use issues. A lot of times when you talk about addiction, people just want to look at the addiction. They never want to look at the why. But if you take the time and look at it, a lot of people start experiencing mental health symptoms late adolescence, early 20s. And that's the same group that start experimenting with drugs and alcohol. So always look for the why. Like, were you experiencing mental health things and went to drugs and alcohol for self-medication, or were you experiencing with drugs and alcohol and it triggered something? Have these talks. Talk about the family members that went through things, because a lot of things are hereditary and are passed down. And if we don't know these things, it's hard to pinpoint like what's going on. So
Thank you. I did want to just share, just hearing both of you talk about, you really both alluded to the fact that whatever the issue may be that a person may dealing with, the biggest thing is making sure that he or she deal with that issue. And that's one thing that I really stand firm on. And I kind of talked a little bit about on Monday. People have to deal with their individual issues, and until they deal with it, well, personally, they have to deal with it because no one else can deal with it for them. And so that's really so important. So thank you all for sharing it, because I know personally within myself, everything that may have impacted me personally, I had to deal with it personally. No one else could fix it or deal with it for me. So thank you both for sharing. So there are just a few more questions I definitely want to make sure we get in before we wrap this up. Part of this segment was centered around queen energy. So I'm going to come to you, Cleo, to start this one off. So when I think about queen energy and I think about women, and I think about how amazing, beautiful creatures we are, walking in your God-given purpose, holding your head high through it all, whatever trials, tribulations, obstacles come our way. Sometimes it can be extremely hard. But as I think about queen energy, for me at this point in my life, I prefer, and I've always really been this type of person. I never wanted to be connected to negativity, people who brought negative energy. And I believe when you are really trying to maintain your queen energy, if you have people like that around you, you are going to have to disconnect, because there's no way you can continue to move forward in your positive energy. So Cleo, for this question, as women, and maybe not everybody, I've been guilty of it, giving people multiple chances. I believe in, okay, I'm gonna give you the benefit of the doubt, I'm gonna give you another chance. But as I got older, maybe it's because my patience has worn thin. I'm like, okay, one or two, after that is it. Because we're, as adults, there's only so many chances that I feel like as an adult that sometimes you just have to get to the point to draw a line. And so I want to ask you, why is it so important to realize we have to sometimes simply disconnect from people who may be bringing that negative energy or never have something positive to say? What are your thoughts on that?
I think that's a great question, and a great thing to take time to reflect on every so often. I think it's good to ask ourselves if the way that we are operating in our daily lives aligns with the life that we say we want for ourselves. And if it doesn't, then we're abandoning our own self. And so I think that when we are in relationship with people who don't reflect the way that we feel we want to love ourselves and create our lives, then we are essentially saying that we're willing to leave behind what's important to us in terms of who we want to be and how we want to live. And so I think once we frame it that way, it becomes a little bit easier to be like, you know what? I think it's time for this season to come to an end, because I love myself enough to say that I deserve X, Y, and Z that I say that I want. And in order to truly get there, my actions need to reflect that. And if this relationship isn't a reflection of it, then we have to let it go. And so I think it's also important to keep in mind that it doesn't have to end in a way that involves drama. It doesn't have to end in a way where you feel like maybe you need to be fully disconnected. I think depending on the circumstance, especially if there is some type of abuse attached to the situation, like, yes, then 100% that needs to end. However, sometimes the relationship maybe just needs to look different. Maybe the boundaries need to be set in place in a certain way where you still get to protect your heart, your mind, and the life that it is that you say that you want. And so I think it's highly important when we're operating in queen energy to make sure we have boundaries in place and to be clear on our purpose, and to also be clear on how we are engaging in relationship and in actions that reflect and align with that purpose that we have for ourselves.
Amen. I love it. Erica, I wanted you to chime in. I remember a few months ago, I saw a post, and you and I talked about this a few days ago, and it's something that I've heard down through the years about seasons. There's a time and a season for everything under the sun, but it was a really good post that talked about seasons. And for me, I know as an adult, it hurt sometimes people that I was really close to when I realized that this was just for a season. But as I truly accepted it and continued to move forward, I realized too, even though God was removing certain people, He was still bringing certain people in my circle. So I wanted you to kind of jump in here.
Yes, absolutely. And Dr. Clea, I second everything you said. You hit the nail on the head there. Absolutely. And I think just like you said, Dr. Marshall, as we grow and as we become adults and walking in our queen energy, right? I think it's important to recognize that we go through changes and stages in our lives, and that includes development in every stage. And people are in your life for a reason and for a season, and they're also removed for a reason. And being okay with that. And I loved how you said, Dr. Cleo, like, it doesn't have to be abrupt, it doesn't have to be nasty, it doesn't have to be in a way that traditional relationships dissolve. It doesn't have to be that way. We grow and we develop and we change, and things happen in life to where we can no longer be that support. We can no longer be that type of place in somebody's life that we once were. And that's okay, because I'm not my 20-year-old self anymore. I'm a wife, an entrepreneur, and a mom. And if I can't serve you in that way that I once did before all these titles and roles, that's okay. I still have love for you. I still want you nothing but the growth. That's okay. We served, we loved, we grew, and now it's time for us to continue to do that in our different paths. Not to say that we're not going to come back. So I love that, because a lot of times we feel like we need to shrink who we are to meet other people's needs, and vice versa. A lot of people project their own feelings and their own traumas and their own issues on you. And recognizing when a relationship is no longer uplifting you, it's pulling you down, not having those boundaries, it just recognizing how it's moving and being very intentional about creating spaces that are serving and that is uplifting to you, but also to them. So yeah, that's it.
I love it. I'm real big on, especially at this point in my life, I am not shrinking myself or anyone.
No.
And when you said that, it reminded me of what Coach Prime, I'm a huge Coach Prime fan. I remember he said, if my confidence offends your insecurities, respectfully, that's not my problem. That's yours. And I believe in encouraging and uplifting and supporting, but I've also learned too over the course of my life that sometimes, and I truly believe in, let's talk about it. Let's have a conversation. But I do believe as adults that think rational, can think logical, you can't force a situation. And when you're in those situations, you have to allow that person to really come around at their own time. And I because I'm a peacemaker, I'm like the person in my family, if something is wrong or if I see there's tension, I want to fix it. But as I've gotten older, I learned that some things are just not for me to fix. When I pray and leave it in God's hands, that's all I can do. And it's tough, especially when it's family or when it's people who you feel like are close friends. But I know if I've done my best and I really tried and I tried to figure it out, and you're just not getting that resolution you wanted to see, I've really come to a place in my life. I'm like, God, I prayed about it, and I have learned that I have to let it go, because there's only so much you can do, and God can fix it better than I can. So, ladies, as we get ready to close, I did want to share one thing, and I would like for you all, before we close, everyone, if you would like to share, I know you all shared earlier about your business. I would love for you all to close out on that note, letting people know, like, hey, how they can connect with you, because you all are truly empowering through your purpose. And that's what I love. And that's what I appreciate about you. So before we close it, I would love for you all to share that. But one thing I wanted to share, and I had really had some time to think about it, and I initially wasn't. But when I think about 2025, and I did want to share this with the audience because God has put me in a place where, I've had to come to a place to really fully heal. When I started off 2025, well, first of all, when 2025 rolled in, I was literally like, I'm always on a high. New year comes in, I'm like, okay, unapologetically empowered and purpose. This is my year. And one thing about me, as I, embarked on 2025 and I saw where I was in my personal life, professional life, and I was at a place where I didn't see what was about to unfold until January hit. And when I tell you, as I shared earlier, this is, one thing my life is a testimony. And so as we talk about, just, walking in queen energy and through 2025, when I tell you through tests and trials and unexpected experience, it has really tested my faith. And so just to kind of, in short, because I wanted to share this because it really kind of drove me to, creating this segment the way I did with you all, because I felt like you would be powerful, not just for other people, but even just for me. When I embarked on 2025, I was in a great place in my relationship. And something happened with the person at the time. And I'm sharing this because I'm at a place where I can talk about it now, but I'm sharing it because hopefully it will help someone else too. And the person that I was in a relationship with, we found out he had cancer. Now, this is January. We're talking about marriage. I've got my rings. I went and got my finger size because we're really serious. And then we found out he has cancer. Now, I'm a woman, he's a man. And the way I would have handled it, just being me, I'm like, okay, I want to be there. I want to support you. And that's what I would want. But the dynamics for me were totally different. Someone that I've spent so much time with, energy with, praying to God for. And I'm like, God, this has definitely got to be the person. Cancer hits and my world, it's like almost like the foundation just got shaken in front of me. And then 2 months later, my closest soror tells me she has cancer. Now I'm going from January to March, and I find that someone else is close in my circle has cancer. Then May hits, and then my mother gets sick. So within a matter of 6 months, my world is just rocking, shaking. Now, mind you, I have every Monday, part of my strategic post is Monday motivation. And I'm like, God, in January, how am I going to do this? In February, how am I going to continue? Because I'm having to figure out, like, do I even want to keep pushing forward? Because now the person that I love is dealing with an illness, unfortunately, that his father died from. So now he's mentally having to deal with that, shutting down, not talking. I'm like, okay, God, I want to be there to support this person, but I can't fix it. I'm still praying him, but I can't fix it. And I'm like, 2 months later down, I'm like, God, this is heavy. My plate is heavy. And I share this with people because even every morning after that, I'm like talking to God. Like, God, I need you now more than ever. Like, God, I'm releasing it all to you because these are some heavy, heavy weights right now. And I'm trying to maintain, trying to do my Monday motivation, trying to smile, even though I'm hurting. And so I share this with people because when we talked about positive mindset, we have to truly make that decision how we are going to start our day. Even though, you pray, you say that scripture, how you start that day will help you get through that day. It will help you get through the week. It will help you get through that next month. And so as I talk about this, for me, the last few months were even heavier. But as I share this, I'm so proud to say, even now today in December, before I got here, I said, God, I can't stop living. You can't change the dynamics of what's going on in other people's life, but you can pray for them. You can trust God to fix it and work it out. And I'm proud to say, as I'm here today, well, going back to the person that was in my life, someone who was really meant a lot to me. And I never saw this happening. And even, we've talked along the months and, we've had conversation. He's still in a place where he's not totally where I wish he was, but I know that's something that he has to continue trusting God for. And I share this with people to say, you can have plans. You can have this all planned out and think things are going to happen one way. And even I never thought this would happen in my family with my mom, but it happened. And through all of this heaviness and this weight, The only way I'm here today in December is by the grace of God. I am literally here today, and that's why I wanted to have this segment, because I'm like, when I finally got to, October, November, I started feeling my strength. I started feeling more of my strength. And I'm like, okay, God, I'm coming out of this. I love him, but I got to let him go, because I can't fight that battle, because even though like I know that he loved me, it was still something for him, and he's still dealing with, because of what the doctors have said to him, longevity. He doesn't know the unknown, and none of us do. And I've shared and I've prayed, but I said, Lord, I have to let this go, because it was weighing me down and it was bringing me down. And I had to get to a place as a woman. And that's why I talk about queen energy, like, Shawania, you know your worth. If it's meant to be, he'll come back. If it's meant to be, when he deals with that, when he really realizes that the reality is none of us know the next day, or the hour. If this is truly what he wanted, and this is something that he still wants, he'll come back. And so I share this with people out there, because by the grace of God, just praying, walking in my purpose, getting up every morning, reading something positive, being there, showing up like you all talked about for family, still showing up for friends, doing what you're called to do, doing what you are purpose driven to do. God, every day, God just continued to strengthen me, giving me my strength back. And I'm grateful and I'm thankful. So on tonight, as we get ready to close out, I just want to share with people out there, continue to be encouraged, continue to do what you're supposed to do, walking in your purpose. And God is going to fix the situation. He's going to work it out. It may not work out the way you thought it would have worked out, but at the end of the day, as long as you can see that where you were, where I was in January, you see your strength, your healing, you're getting back to that place where you have your peace. That's what's so important. And so my hope is that through this segment, through hearing from Dr. Thelus, Dr. Flowers, Mrs. Daniels, and Mrs. Lizardo, that hopefully we have shared something that can encourage you and empower you, because I just refused to close out 2025 not still walking in my purpose. And so, ladies, as we close out, if you want to share with people how they can connect with you, please feel free. In resources, I would love for you to do that. And we're going to close out.
Man, Shawana, that was a whole mouthful. That was a whole mouthful. And thank you so much for sharing, because I do think that our personal testimonies empower people. And when you began to speak, the scripture that fell into my spirit was Philippians 4:6. Be not anxious about anything, but in every situation, by prayer and petition, with thanksgiving, present your request to God.
Yeah.
And that's the bottom line. I feel everything that you're feeling even at this moment. But what I will tell you is that I can remember when my late husband was murdered. And it took everything in me every day to get up and just walk. But every day I was determined that I've got to do one thing that God wanted me to do. And each day there was strength that was gained in that. And so by prayer and petition, make your request known before God. And he's going to do that. He's going to do exceedingly abundantly all things that we can even think or imagine. And so as we get ready to close out, I want to thank each of you ladies, because you guys have deposited so much tonight into my life. Ms. Daniel, you said something about substance abuse, the connection and the behaviors, because even right now, as we have so many teens dealing with marijuana issues, it's because of the why. People don't ask the why. And so thank you, Dr. Cleo. Thank you so much for your words that you talked about today, even the intersectionality of race and those things. You didn't say a whole lot, but everything that you said tonight has just really impacted me and made me want to dig a little bit deeper. And Miss Erika, honey, when you talk about leading folks where they at, I'm going to do that just this year, because I think that I'm like Shawana. I'm a fixer in my family. And so when I feel that I can't fix things, I feel defeated. And God was like, it wasn't for you to fix. It was for me to handle. So you know what? Cast that care too. So I want to thank each of you all because you guys have really empowered me tonight. So thank you so much for your queen energy. And so lastly, I would like to say that I am the publisher of Purposeful Pathways Publishing Company. And so one of my purposes is to share stories that no one else want to write or no one else wants to hear, but I'll publish them because I think that everybody has a story and everybody's story has value. And so Purposeful Pathway Publishing, I'm on Instagram under Purposeful Pathway Publishing. You can also find me on Facebook under Arthur Sharon E. Flowers, and also at Instagram. I am Sharon E. Flowers on there as well. And so, like I said, thank each of you ladies so much. Thank you for empowering me tonight. I appreciate you all.
Thank you.
And I'll jump in. I just want to, again, thank you, Dr. Marshall, for holding this space for this really important segment and just still empowering while also educating the audience and us as well to just be here. And it's been an honor to be here with each and every one of you. I appreciate it. And I can be reached. I can be reached via Instagram at Full Circle Healing, Full Circle _ Healing ACT, via email, fullcirclehealingact@gmail.com, or I'm also searchable on Psychology Today.
Thank you.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you.
Yes, thank you all. I am so inspired by each and every one of you. Thank you for sharing your stories, your why. Each of you sharing parts of your why really empowered me tonight as well. So I look forward to staying connected to each and every one of you. So Dr. Marshall, I want to add on to those thanks for just thinking of doing this and then reaching out to me and each and every one of us to create this space together. I can be found on Instagram under Remed Royale. That's REMED ROYALE. And again, that particular business is focused on wholeness with a focus on Black folks. So I can be found there, and hopefully you can get some inspiration through that.
It's truly been an honor to even be asked to be on this panel. I've learned so much and got so many different perspectives of what it is like, even though we are all in pretty much the same arena, it's just different perspectives. And I love to hear that from people who look like me. I would have loved to walk in a college classroom and saw your faces. Like that would have made my day. We did not have that in Troy. But just to hear your parts of your stories, and thank you so much, Shawania, for sharing yours as well. I know that couldn't have been easy, but it was definitely necessary. One thing I want to share, just related to Queen Energy, I feel like I walked into Queen Energy after 40. I don't know what it was, but when 40 hit, I was like, yeah, I'm here. And one thing I'm gonna say is, we are gonna be the villain in somebody's story. Let it be. Let them, like the Mel Robbins book. Let them. And then let me do what I can do. Let me control what I can control. Let me move in a way that provides peace for me. And when I begin to see that, it's been okay over here. My friends, my family, the people around me, they see it now. Like at first it was like a fluke, but now they like, no, that's who she is now. Let's you either gonna accept it or you're not, and I'm fine if you don't. And I'm okay with, like you said, Dr. Cleo, just walking away, not bitter, not resentful, but I'm good. There's nothing, no beef or anything. But that's what Queen Energy means to me. Just being your authentic self and being able to look in the mirror and say, yeah, I'm her. I'm that girl. Well, I'm not gonna say I don't have any, but I do have a Facebook page, Resilience Counseling and Resources. LLC. I haven't really been doing much on there, but that is a goal for the new year. I can also be reached on Facebook, Melissa Danielle, just inbox. And then that's pretty much it. I'm going to work on, you have inspired me in that way to work on my social media presence as far as my business goes. But again, I'm honored to be here, and thank you, Shawania, for the opportunity.
You all are so welcome. Thank you for everything that you have shared. And I do want to tell everyone that has been tuning in and sharing just phenomenal words. Thank you all for tuning in, and even thank you to the ones that will tune in later. And I want to share with you all, just so you know, some of the people have been sharing things about God bless you, queens, stand on it, and just like, thank you all for just being transparent. So I wanted to share that because I think that's so important to let you all know what other people think about what you have done and what you have shared, because I already knew what I believe you all were going to bring and how we could really, truly impact just and touch the lives of other people. So this has truly been meaningful and powerful and very dear to me. So on that note, we are going to close out. But this is not the end. So please, people, if you want to connect with me, you can check out me on Instagram, Unapologetically Empowered and Purpose at WOEAP 2020. I'm also on Facebook every week doing strategic posts, Monday through Thursday. I have a YouTube channel, at Dr. S. Marshall. So you can see all of my Monday motivations and just different things that I share just to inspire and educate people. So on that note, we are going to close out. I love you all, my sisters, my people, everyone. In 2025, we're going to close out walking, empowering with purpose, and we are going to be intentional. Have a blessed night, everyone. Thank you.
Good night, everyone.